Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents The Root of All Evil. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this next story. Everyone, please go ahead and like and share the video. Please like and share the video. Okay, so this story is about a woman by the name of Stacey Castor, and I'm going to be showing you some footage of her when she was being cross-examined while she was on trial. So let's get into the story. Stacey Ruth Castor, formerly Wallace. Okay, she was an American woman who was convicted of murder from Weedsport, New York. Now, in 2009, she was found guilty of intentionally poisoning her then husband, David Castor, with antifreeze. Okay, that was in 2005. And attempting to murder her daughter also, Ashley Wallace, with crushed pills mixed up in vodka, orange juice, and Sprite in 2007. Clearly nefarious. Now, in addition, she is suspected of having murdered her first husband, Michael Wallace, also in 2000. Okay? His grave lay next to David Castor's until David's remains were disinterred in 2016 and buried elsewhere by his son. The story made national news, and Castor was subsequently named the Black Widow by the media outlets. And there was even a special 2-hour edition of ABC's 2020 that aired on April the 24th of 2009, and again on February the 8th of 2019 to provide the full story on the Castor case. Now, Stacey, the daughter of Jerry Daniels and Judy Eaton, met Michael Wallace when she was 17 years old in 1985, and they bonded almost immediately. The couple got married and had their first daughter, Ashley, in 1988. And then in 1991, they had a second daughter named Bree. Castor was employed by an ambulance dispatch company, while Wallace worked nights as a mechanic. But the family had little money. They were struggling. And according to Castor, Wallace was very close to Bree, showing favoritism that Castor made up for by becoming best friends with the elder daughter, Ashley. Now, despite their closeness with their children, the couple grew apart, and it was rumored that each of them was having affairs. Now, in late 1999, Wallace began feeling intermittently ill. Family members and various people that he knew remember him acting unsteady, coughing, and seeming as though he were swollen. Now, as his inexplicable sickness persisted over the holiday season, his family encouraged him to seek medical care, but he died in early 2000 before he could do so. Now, their daughter Ashley was 11 years old at the time, and she had been alone with him. She blamed herself for his death. She had noticed his ill appearance that day, but thought nothing of it. Physicians told Castor that her husband had died of a heart attack. Although Wallace's sister was skeptical and requested an autopsy for Wallace, Castor refused, saying she believed what the doctors said and thought they were correct. Of course she'd say that, because she knew good and well he didn't die of a heart attack, and if he did, it was likely due to whatever she gave him. Now, in 2003, Stacey married David Castor, whose surname she used from then on. Castor was the owner of an air conditioning installation and repair company, and Stacey served as his office manager. In August of 2005 at 2 p.m., one afternoon, Castor called her local sheriff's office to tell them that her husband had locked himself in their bedroom for a day, following an argument that they'd had, and was not responding to his cell phone. Now, when he did not appear at their shared workplace, she said she became worried. She claimed that he was depressed. Unable to get a response, Sergeant Robert Willoughby of the Onondaga County Sheriff's Department kicked in the door of the bedroom, and there he found David Castor lying dead. Now, among the items near his body were a container of antifreeze and a half-full glass of bright green liquids. Willoughby says he remembers that Castor screamed, "He's not dead, he's not dead," with her fake self, trying to act like she didn't know he was already dead and that she hadn't, acting like she hadn't in fact killed him. So the coroner reported that David Castor had committed suicide through a self-administered lethal dose of antifreeze. But when police found Stacey Castor's fingerprints on the antifreeze glass, and then they located a turkey baster, people, in the trash, and guess what? It had David Castor's DNA on the tip, and it also had drops of antifreeze in it. So that's when they knew he didn't give himself this. She had to give it to him. Okay, so they began to suspect Stacey Castor had engineered her husband's death. They believed that Castor had used the turkey baster to force feed him once he became too physically weak. And let me tell you something about antifreeze. When someone consumes antifreeze, the first symptoms is they'll start feeling sick. But the first symptoms that another person would notice just from looking at them is that they'll appear to be drunk. Like they'll look like they're drunk or whatever, right? And then they'll start vomiting and all of that. And you may think, how could she give him this antifreeze? Let me tell you something. This woman here, she's the reason that they changed the way they make antifreeze, just so you know. She's the reason they changed it, because back then, when she gave her husband this antifreeze had no taste to it. Okay, it had no taste to it. So it starts crystallizing the organs. Absolutely, Kendall. So it had no taste to it. They could put it in your drink. You wouldn't even know it was in there, and you would just consume it. So it was easy for somebody to kill people like this. After this, that's when they said, okay, we got to put something in here to make it have a terrible taste so nobody can do this. Because people could just be going around putting antifreeze in people's drinks and killing them. Okay? So anyway, the detectives on the case ordered wiretapping on Castor's house. Now, they listened in on phone calls from any unusual conversations, And in addition, they set up cameras overlooking Castor's house and the grave sites of her husbands, who had been buried side by side at Castor's request. Now, detectives reasoned that if Castor were truly genuine about her love for her late husbands, then she would eventually visit their graves. They wanted to observe her behavior while there. Castor, however, never visited her husband's graves. The investigators soon felt that the only way to prove Castor responsible for both of these homicides was to have Wallace's body exhumed. A toxicology screening ruled that Wallace had also been killed through antifreeze poisoning. Now, in September of 2007, amid mounting evidence that Castor had murdered both of her husbands, she began to panic. After she learned police had exhumed Wallace's body and found traces of antifreeze in his system, she was believed to have devised a plan to set up her daughter, Ashley, for the murders. Now, to set up her own daughter. I mean, tell me this isn't nefarious. Who does this? She was cold-blooded, clearly a psychopath. Now, on Ashley's first day of college, investigators came to her school to question her about her father's death and to inform her that she had been poisoned that he had been poisoned instead of having died of a heart attack. An upset Ashley called Castor. Soon after, Ashley said Castor invited her to come to the family home in Liverpool and drink together. Castor said that they had been through enough emotional stress and they needed to simply relax. Ashley agreed because Castor was not only her mother, but her best friend, or so she thought. Now, the following day, Castor invited Ashley to drink together at home again. She says her mother offered her a nasty tasting drink that she at first refused, but eventually drank because she trusted her. 17 hours later, Ashley was found comatose on her bed by her younger sister, Bree Wallace. And this is the reason the drink tasted so nasty is because she crushed up pills and mixed it with the vodka and orange juice. So she was found by her comatose in the bed, found by her younger sister, Bree. So Bree demanded that she get help. Okay, she demanded that she get help, and she made Castor call 911. She wasn't going to call him because she literally wanted this girl dead, so she wasn't going to call him. Her sister made her call. Now, Ashley's sister left her side for a moment, and when she returned, she found a suicide note. Now, she done already gave this girl enough poison to kill her, And then when the other daughter finds her and tells her to call 911, she knows that she's going to get caught in cold busted now, because when the police come and see this girl's been poisoned or given these pills or whatever, they're going to know she was in on that because she's already killed the husband. So she writes a suicide note. So anyway, when she returned, she found a suicide note beside Ashley. The note appeared to be Ashley's murder confession, in which she admits to having killed her father and her stepfather. Now, how crafty is this? Okay, Castor quickly took the note from her sister and later gave it to the paramedics. Tests revealed that potentially fatal painkillers had been found in Ashley's system, and that she most likely would have died if they had not taken her to the hospital, and she would have been dead in just a few minutes, likely. Now, when Ashley woke up with police questioning her about the murders and the suicide note found beside her, she said that the last thing she remembered was her mother making her an alcoholic drink, something she'd never done before. She said she told the officers that she didn't write any notes and she didn't confess to anything. She didn't even know what they were talking about with these questions and accusations. So for 2 years, investigators had collected evidence against Castor for the deaths of her husbands. And in 2007, she was arrested for second degree murder and David's death, and for attempting to murder Ashley and frame her for the murders of David and Wallace. Let me tell you something. I don't know why they charged her with second degree, because clearly that was premeditated. She had malice aforethought and mens rea. They should have absolutely charged her with capital murder, which is first degree murder, okay? Prosecutors argued that the computer-generated notes where Ashley confesses to the killings of Wallace and David had actually been written by Castor. Ashley was 11 at the time of her father Wallace's death. So this child was 11 when the first husband died. So you mean to tell me an 11-year-old plotted the whole plan and carried it out to kill her own father? Now, when brought to the stand, she testified that she did not murder either her father or her stepfather, nor did she write any suicide notes. Onondaga County District Attorney William Fitzpatrick and Chief Assistant District Attorney Christine Garvey argued that David Castor's suicide had never made sense given the lack of his fingerprints on the glass or the container tainted with ethylene glycol. Now, ethylene glycol is one of the main ingredients in antifreeze. That's a toxic substance found in antifreeze, and the turkey baster found in the kitchen garbage bearing both ethylene glycol and his DNA. They felt that this suggested he was force-fed the antifreeze. Now, given evidence of the evolution of David Castor's illness, because his illness slowly progressed, like he was sick and then he progressively got sicker and sicker before he died. So given the evolution of his illness, they concluded that Castor had, for 4 days, fed her husband antifreeze through the baster before trying to make it look like a suicide. She had said that her husband got the idea to kill himself with antifreeze while both were watching a news report on Lynn Turner, who murdered her past 2 lovers by using the poison. Yes, there was another story about a woman named Lynn Turner who had actually killed her husbands the same way. And that's when they should have changed the makeup of it then. But they didn't. And so this fool found out, and that's what she did. Now, the prosecutors, and it starts to cause kidney failure. It starts to cause your organs to shut down. But it first starts crystallizing in the kidneys and then causes kidney failure. And then after that, you're just pretty much gone. So the prosecutors presented evidence showing how antifreeze poisoning can be identified by the growth of calcium oxalate crystals in the kidneys, and that this was seen with the examination of Wallace and David's bodies as well. In addition, they noted money as one of the main reasons Castor killed her husbands. She had murdered her husbands partly to collect their life insurance and estates, and had changed David's will to exclude his son by a previous marriage from the money that was left to him by David. She was even going to take the kids' money. That's so low down. Now, in 2005, people started to put it together. Cayuga County Sheriff Dave Gould, this is what he said. They finally had figured it all out. Now, if Mr. Wallace had been cremated, or if Mr. Castor had not died, we would never have known that this was a homicide. Having searched Castor's computer, prosecutors also found several drafts of the suicide note Ashley was accused of writing. Forensic investigators found that Based on the timestamps, it had been written while Ashley was in school, proving that she didn't or she couldn't have been the author. Now, they argued that the suicide attempt had actually been a planned out murder attempt by Castor against Ashley. On the stand, Ashley retold how her mother had convinced her to drink for 2 nights before she almost died. She repeated that she only drank the nasty tasting beverage because she trusted her mother. She maintained in her innocence of the 2 murders and of writing the notes. Now, Castor's defense team, attorneys Charles Keller and Todd Smith, they were set up on creating reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors about Castor having committed the murders. They wanted to poke holes in Ashley's version of what happened and prove that she could have been capable of murder at the age of 11. So sad. Okay? Yes, Empress, low down, dirty shame. Evelyn Champagne. Anyway. So they noted Ashley's father, Wallace, showing favoritism toward his younger daughter rather than Ashley, and cited jealousy as a possible motive for Ashley having murdered at such a young age. This is laughable, people. So an 11-year-old child is going to kill her own father because she's jealous because he's showing favoritism to the other child. Please, it's so ridiculous. Now, for her stepfather, they noted his and Ashley's tumultuous relationship and how they did not get along with each other. Castor's mother believed her granddaughter, Ashley, to be guilty. In a final attempt to convince the jury that she was not guilty, Castor took the stand. And on cross-examination, Fitzpatrick pointed out that what he felt were flaws in Castor's version of that night. She maintained that it was Ashley who murdered Wallace and David, though she would not speculate about motives beyond implying that her daughter might be mentally ill. Fitzpatrick pointed out that Ashley's mother had never sought therapy for her, and that at 21, Ashley exhibited no signs of mental illness. And that's true. If you thought your child was crazy or had mental illness, you didn't get her any type of help. Clearly, she was lying. Now, Fitzpatrick asserted that Castor's behavior during David Castor's and Ashley's illnesses made no sense, given the years she had worked for a paramedics company. Like, you worked for paramedics and you didn't try to give them any type of aid. You didn't render any aid, try to do CPR, any of those things, please. She did not seek care for Ashley for 17 hours and indicated that David Castor was staggering and vomiting and unable to stand. So that looked okay to her? Likewise, he questioned how a woman who had lost 2 husbands to poisoning would not seek help for a daughter in Ashley's state. Fitzpatrick frequently shouted at Castor, inspiring Castor's defense attorney, Charles Keller, to frequently object and even to request a mistrial. Prosecutors brought up another piece of damaging evidence against Castor, however, when they cited having heard typing sounds while Castor was on the phone. During one of the wiretap recordings presented, there was typing sounds. They can be heard while Castor talks to a friend, though Castor denied memory of using the computer that day. Prosecutors argued that the typing sounds were those of one of the several drafts Castor had written of the suicide note. Ashley had already testified to having witnessed her mother working on the computer on something she had hidden to prevent Ashley from seeing it. Fitzpatrick claimed this was the day Castor wrote the suicide note, which had Castor's fingerprints on it, but not Ashley's, to frame the daughter. And he told the jury about the word antifreeze being written as antifreeze, not antifreeze, in 4 places within the notes, and noted that Castor had also said antifreeze during an interview. How stupid could she have been? Now, Castor said she had cut herself off while saying antifreeze because she had intended to say something else. Castor's defense team presented a pharmaceutical expert in an attempt to cast doubts on the prosecution's claim that Castor had drugged Ashley 17 hours prior to being taken to the hospital. Now, Professor Francis Gengo testified that after analyzing the traces of drugs and alcohol found in blood drawn from Ashley at the hospital, Ashley would have had to ingest alcohol, Ritalin, and several other drugs just several hours before she was hospitalized. Now, on February the 5th of 2009, Castor was found guilty of second-degree murder in the poisoning death of David and the attempted second-degree murder for overdosing her daughter Ashley with drugs and vodka. With a jam-packed courtroom, most were focused on Castor. She, however, had her eyes closed as the verdicts were read. Her praying now. Oh, now she wants to pray. Okay? Please. So anyway, her lead defense counsel, Keller, announced that Castor would appeal the verdict, including challenging the inclusion of evidence regarding the death of her first husband, for which Castor had not been charged. Now, on March the 5th of 2009, at Castor's sentencing, Chief Assistant District Attorney Christine Garvey asked Fahy to impose the maximum consecutive sentences because of the brutality of David's death. Further, she criticized how Castor had partied in the background or in her backyard with friends like nothing was happening as Ashley was comatose in her room. Now, she was cold-blooded. Clearly, she was a psychopath, people. You know, those of you who watch my true crime series, you know that I talk about True Crime Saturdays. You know how I talk about the differences between sociopaths and psychopaths. A sociopath is someone who has no conscience, and they're very wicked and nefarious, but usually something has happened to them throughout their life to make them become this way. But the psychopath, they are nefarious and wicked and evil and have no conscience and no empathy or sympathy except for themselves when they're caught. And they're also pathological liars. But these people are born that way. It's the only difference. One is born and the other one is created. So anyway, partying while her daughter's laying in the room dying. I mean, she didn't have a bit of empathy or shame. So anyway, she partied in the backyard with her friends like nothing was happening. And she is cold, is what he says. She is cold, calculating, and without any emotion for what she has done. Human life is sacred. Stacey Castor places no value on human life, not even on her own flesh and blood. To Stacey Castor, human beings are disposable, just like trash, absolutely. This is how she felt. David's son, whom Castor had cheated out of his will, pleaded with Judge Fahy for Castor to be severely punished. Your Honor, Castor is a monster and a threat to society. She has created so much pain and death with this, creating multiples of pain and death in the families of those she has hurt. Judge Fahy told Castor that he had never seen a parent attempt to murder their child in order to set their child up for a crime they committed, they committed themselves, and declared Castor in a class all by herself. He sentenced her to the maximum of 25 years to life for the murder of David Castor and to another 25 years for the attempts to kill Ashley. For forging David's will, he ordered Castor to serve an additional 1 1/3 to 4 years in prison. Now, the trial lasted for 4 weeks. An emotional Ashley told the judge she hated her mother for ruining so many people's lives, but she loved her for the bond she originally had shared with her. She says, I never knew what hate was until now. Even though I do hate her, I still love her at the same time. That bothers me. It's so confusing. How can you hate someone and love them at the same time? I just wish that she would say sorry for everything she did, including all the lies. As horrible as it makes me feel, this is goodbye, Mom. As hard as you tried, I survived, and I will survive because now I'm surrounded by people who love me. I'm going to do good things in this world, despite making me in every sense of the word an orphan. So that's all so crazy, right? She thought she was going to get away with it. Oh yes, she absolutely did. So anyway, on April the 24th of 2009, ABC aired a 2-hour show on 2020 special report about Castor and the trial, which included interviews. During the trial, Castor had been dubbed the Black Widow by media outlets, a title previously given to Lynn Turner, a woman who killed her 2 husbands the exact same way, antifreeze poisoning. Ashley said that she does not know how her mother or any mother could try to kill their own child, a question that the public has also pondered. Castor, who professed to being shocked at the guilty verdict, maintained her innocence during the on-air 2020 special, as well as in unaired parts of the program. She said that Ashley brought this on and insists that she and Ashley know very well what happens. She did express sympathy for her daughter, Bree. She called Bree an innocent victim whom she lost along with her freedom and her husband's. She indicated that her mother, stepfather, and some of the other relatives still support her. Boy, they must be dumb. Bree, like Ashley, never spoke to Castor after the trial. Bree said that though losing her mother was hard, she says, I was happy that they said she was guilty because we all knew that she was guilty. I would have done anything for her, but she tried to kill me instead. Both of the Castor's daughters expressed concern that their mother had not apologized to them. Castor maintains her innocence of the deaths of her husbands and the attempted murder of Ashley. ABC also interviewed forensic scientist or psychiatrist Dr. James Knoll for a psychological perspective on the case. And he answered viewers' questions via video on April the 23rd of 2009 and via site comments on April 27, 2009. He stated that while most suicide notes focus on themes of remorse and the person not being able to go on with life, the note supposedly written by Ashley was focused on taking the blame off of Castor. So that's how they knew it was all shady, okay? He said that this theme was repeated 14 times within the notes, and that he believes Castor will never admit to guilt for the murders. The code of murderers such as these, he said, is deny until the bitter end. When asked if Castor's behavior and body language on the stand shows any sort of clue about her mental state or guilt, Noel reminded that body language and behavior can be affected by events during a trial, such as a side effect from medications, anxiety, fatigue, and attorney instructions to the defendant on how to behave, that their interpretation is not always reliable because of that. So though Castor was not officially defined as a serial killer, it is likely that she would have killed again. Noel said that killers may have many different motivations. He described Castor as a black widow rather than a typical serial killer. He described a black widow as a type of woman who kills husbands or lovers for material gain, as opposed to the typical serial killer, men who kill consecutively for sexual or sadistic motives. He relayed that psychopathic traits and histories of childhood abuse have been consistently reported in these women, and suggested that if Castor were guilty of the crimes of which she had been convicted and accused, then she would be demonstrating psychopathic traits, including regarding even her own children as an object to be used for her convenience. I told you all she was a psychopath. I told you. I am actually deemed a serial killer expert, just for those of you who don't know. Now, Forensic Files had an episode titled Freeze Framed regarding Castor. In addition to the Turner and Castor antifreeze murder cases, similar cases were reported in 2008, and in 2002, a man had been convicted of murdering his wife by antifreeze in 1998. So even prior to her doing this years ago, a man did the same thing to his wife. A letter she had written before her death incriminated him as the murderer if she were to eventually die. The letter led to his prosecution. That's for the man's wife that was killed in 1998. The series Sex, Lies, and Murders, Series 2, Episode 3, as well described the events leading up to the trial, including an interview with the district attorney in the case, who pointed out that Castor may have murdered her own. Now, I didn't even know this. They said she may have murdered her own father, Jerry Daniels, who died February the 22nd of 2002, shortly after his daughter visited him in the hospital, where he had a minor lung complaint. And he ended up dying in the hospital, had a minor lung complaint. So they say she probably did that too. Castor's first husband's family believed Castor may have killed her father, having brought an open can of soda in for her father to drink in the hospital. She was the executor of his estate. Yes, she killed him. That's why she brought him a drink in. She had the antifreeze already in there. Imagine that. Now listen to this. She's dead now. Stacey Castor. Castor was found dead in her cell on the morning of June 11, 2016. It was not immediately apparent how she died, and the manner of her death was listed as undetermined. It was later determined by the DA's office that Castor died of a heart attack with no evidence of suicide or foul play. They also had a film about her that aired on Lifetime. It was called, and I think it came out February the 1st, February of 2020, but it was called Poisoned for Love, or Poisoned Love. That's what it was called. But so anyway, let's look at some footage of this nefarious devil. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to show you all an interview and her being cross-examined. Okay, here's the interview. This is like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Everyone, please get the likes up. Please like and share the video. Subscribe to the channels if you have not done so already. Make sure you click the notification bell and click the word all. Do not forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAhmadiyyah. Also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27, Twitter at dgoddess27, Brighton and Patreon at QueenAhmadiyyah.
The Cayuga County DA is asking for the grand jury minutes of her murder case. Judge Joseph Fahey has reserved decision on the matter. Castor, who's already been convicted of killing her second husband with antifreeze and trying to kill her daughter, is the subject of a 2-hour ABC 2020 special tomorrow night. Jeff Kulikowski sat down with the man who prosecuted her today to reflect on one of his most high-profile cases ever.
Where's the moral outrage, you know?
From the very beginning, as you might imagine, Bill Fitzpatrick and Stacey Castor have had very different views of this case.
That's a great expression of it right there. I love that one. Me? Me?
And in the weeks since her conviction, very little has changed.
Well, I didn't do it, so why would I believe it? You know, if I had had a fair trial from the beginning, we probably wouldn't be sitting in this particular place having this interview.
And she's a cold customer.
It was Bill Fitzpatrick's first chance to watch parts of the never-before-seen jailhouse interview with Stacey Castor after her conviction.
I was in shock. I couldn't believe that, you know.
She knows as well as I know that I'm sitting here talking to you that she killed her 2 husbands. She's just getting better at denying it. That's all.
Despite holding tight to her innocence from the very beginning, Castor admits to preparing for the possibility she'd be found guilty.
I've been listening to her phone calls for quite a while, including her jail calls for well over a year. And she was absolutely convinced that she was going to be acquitted. So this is all made up that, you know, we were preparing from Jump Street for the conviction. Her and her boyfriend were planning on going away and trips and everything like that.
Ashley brought this on.
If you believe, as I do, that she did what she did, then her demeanor and her reaction are really incomprehensible.
Now, Stacey Castor was in Onondaga County Court today. She didn't say anything at all during her brief appearance there. She's serving prison term at the Bedford Hills Correctional Facility in Westchester County, but is being allowed to stay at the Justice Center here while Judge Fahey decides on Cayuga County's request for those grand jury minutes from the murder case. Rod.
Jeff, thank you. Tomorrow night, 2020 will air their special Black Widow, the Stacey.
So nefarious. But hold on, I'm going to let you all see her on trial when she was being cross-examined. I'm going to show a brief clip of that, okay? Everyone, please get the likes up. Please like and share the video, okay?
3 letters that we have evidence here that you wrote to Lynn Glasgow. How many times do you recall referring to your daughter Ashley?
Probably a lot.
And how many times in those letters did you tell Lynn that you still love your daughter Ashley?
I don't know.
How about not one single time? Does that sound correct?
Could be.
Could be. Could be that you referred to her very negatively, didn't you?
I'm sure I did.
That's right, because she killed, after all, your 2 husbands, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
She did. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about a list of reasons why Ashley killed. We'll start with Michael Wallace, your own father. If you had to put these on a list for the jury, let's start with reason number 1.
I don't know.
No, I'll overrule. Go ahead.
I can't give you a reason why she would do it.
So if I give you 10 reasons, we're going to start at number 1. And number 1 is, I don't know. Did anybody in the year 2000 know Ashley Wallace better than you?
Probably not.
Did anybody in the year 2005 know Ashley Wallace better than you?
Probably not.
And you, as you just said, have been in jail for 16 months for a crime you claim you didn't commit, correct?
That's true.
And your answer to this jury, when I ask you to give them the number 1 reason why Ashley Wallace killed her own father, with antifreeze and then stuffed rat poison down his throat? Your answer is, I don't know. Correct?
That's correct.
Let's talk about your testimony from yesterday, and then we'll talk about some other things. First of all, for historical perspective, tell me Ashley's birthday.
July 6, 1987.
So at the time of her father's death, she was 12.
Correct?
And you indicated to this jury that Michael visited a doctor in December of '99. Do you remember how he got there?
No, I don't.
Did you take him?
No, I did not. I was at work.
Did he complain to you about his health in December of '99?
Before he went to the doctors, he said that he was feeling dizzy and nauseous.
Okay. And you claim that you made an appointment for Michael on Wednesday.
I called on Tuesday, and the appointment was for Wednesday.
Can you explain to the jury why there's absolutely no record of that?
No, I'll overrule it. Go ahead.
He did not go to the appointment. Why would there be a record of an appointment that he didn't go to?
Because doctors' offices, if you're going to ask me a question, take down records of phone calls and appointments. Can you explain to the jury why there's absolutely no record of any appointment for Michael Wallace?
There was an appointment made for Wednesday morning.
Sent her lying through her raggedy teeth. And then when he asked her why there was no record of the appointment, she said because he didn't go to the appointment. Why would there be a record? Fool! When you make the appointment, there's clearly a record of it. It's in their computer system. Hello. And then somebody said in the chat that she believed her own lies. Yes, she absolutely did. You see, that's the thing about pathological liars. They believe their own lies. And pathologicals will lie no matter what. Even when they don't have to, there's no need for it. And they'll lie to you even when they know that you know they're lying. They will still lie. Okay? You know what happens when you tell a lie so long. Yes, you start to believe it yourself. At least a sister will take you out quick. White females get off on the victim suffering. I mean, having that man die through a couple of days, just poisoning him consistently, it's also nefarious. So anyway, people, that concludes this broadcast. But listen, you all make sure that you tune in at 4, okay? At 4 o'clock, that's almost an hour and a half from now. Matter of fact, make it 4:30, 2 hours from now. Make sure you tune in because I'm going to be going live on my More Than Meets the Third Eye channel, okay? Going to be going live with there. Folks sleep with their enemies and don't even know it. Absolutely, because people can fool you, especially psychopaths and sociopaths. They're very charismatic, charming, say all the right things most of the time. They're very good manipulators, okay? Yes, they are. So I'm about to go watch the Forensic Files now, okay? Yes, but that is their nature, hence the reason why we still have not gotten our reparations because they don't believe that they did us any wrong. Absolutely, Hotep, absolutely. That's why they deny. My favorite channel, and I will miss it. Oh, I'm so sorry, Divine Sacred Mother, but don't worry. You can always watch it on the replay, beloveds. Okay, so with that all being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents The Root of All Evil. So don't forget to tune in for Queen Ahmadiyyah TV, More Than Meets the Third Eye. I'm going to be going live on there, okay, at 4:30, okay, at 4:30. And so they believe what the dictionaries tell them. White means innocent, pure. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so that all been said, I hope to see you all right back in the chats. And until next time, family, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.